The Predator franchise has seen its ups and downs over the last few decades, with only the original 1987 movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger being viewed as the one truly good entry when it comes to film critics. However, now the fifth film in the franchise is getting called the best sequel, and by some, the actual greatest entry in the series, even topping that John McTiernan directed original. Today I'm going to be going over my thoughts on the movie, its reception as far as film critics are concerned, as well as what this means for the franchise and other franchises in general now that Prey has been received the way it has. So right now, guys, Prey is sitting at around 90-something% from the film critics on Rotten Tomatoes, and the audience has it around the early 80s. That's still pretty good. That's an extremely good average for people to be reviewing this movie and coming out liking it. There are a few accusations that are being thrown at the film for being a political message or something adjacent to that, which I'll go into in a second, but as far as the actual movie is concerned, it is getting received pretty damn well. And I'd go as far to say that you really can't deny the fact that Prey has eclipsed Predator 2, Predators, the Alien vs. Predator movies, and of course, The Predator from 2018 as being the best received sequel. Now, I have my thoughts on what that means for the franchise as well as other franchises in general, but I want to actually talk about the movie itself before we go any further. The biggest issues, in my opinion, revolve around a dog that was used in the movie and how the Predator itself was defeated. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Prey is better than Alien vs. Predator, Aliens vs. Predator Requiem, and The Predator, but I struggle to personally say that it's as good as Predator 2 or Predators. If anything, it's closer to those two in terms of quality, only it's nowhere near as complex, which is what I think leads many people to believe it is a superior movie. A lot of people kick Predator 2 when it's down, and I've definitely been there before when I was learning about film and the intricacies of writing, what makes for a good story, what makes for good character development, and what's just plain hokey. But that film and Predators, I don't think are received anywhere near as good as they should be, similar to some of the Jurassic Park sequels that I've talked about before in the past. Now, like I said, the current landscape of Hollywood is not only bad, but it is legitimately poor in comparison to stories that we have gotten in the past by a noticeable margin. And one of the biggest proponents of this decline is the introduction of wokeism, which got connected to the waves of reboots and sequels that were already going on, over 10 years ago. Now, I do want to make it clear that I hate wokeness. I think it's a terrible mind virus that is poisoning everything good and decent in our modern world. It corrupts and destroys what it becomes a part of, and I have never seen any movie, show, or story improve with the forced introduction of that sort of zealous ideology. This was one of the biggest reasons why I was somewhat cautious about Prey, because there were a lot of people saying that this movie had also fallen victim to that sort of evil because of its inclusion of a female lead in the main role. However, upon watching the movie, and this is extremely important to everything I say going forward, I do not honestly believe Prey to be a product of woke mind hive insanity at all. In fact, and this is before I go into any spoilers, I will say that if you're on the fence about seeing this movie, what if I told you that it literally goes out of its way to have several scenes where the lead character is not only presented as being imperfect and quite frankly bad at being a hunter, but she actually is constantly shown to be incapable of doing many of the tasks her male tribesmen and family members can do. There's a sort of message about that towards the end that comes together that is definitely not the same way Star Wars committed, with the Rey Skywalker tropes and other characters. However, I do think it opens the door to other issues the movie had with its execution in the last half, which I'll go over in good time. Just know that from where I'm standing, I really don't like woke garbage, and I think this is definitely not one of those movies. To sum up my thoughts before I talk about spoilers, I think this movie is actually pretty good. I wouldn't go as far as saying that it's better than the original at all, like some people are saying, but I do think it's better than The Predator, it's better than Alien vs. Predator, and it's better than AVPR. As far as Predator 2 and Predators are concerned, I personally don't think this movie is anywhere near as rewatchable and fun as Part 2, and I gotta tell you guys, I really think Predator 3 is just a better movie, but for what it's worth, this is honestly a decent product that I think kicks a lot of other modern movies' asses in that regard. It's definitely not a masterpiece like people are saying, but it's also not an ignorant, woke train wreck at all. It's just kind of there. So before I go into the negatives, I want to talk about the things I really liked about the movie. Now, Prey sets up its plot basically being a prequel to the original Predator films. It starts in the year 1715, where some Comanche warriors are currently trying to live their own lives normally in the middle of America. Now, there are some French settlers that show up in the middle part of the movie and present themselves as being pretty antagonistic towards the Predator and a few of the Comanche characters in the film. But really what this is just one Predator's hunt on Earth, killing some of the creatures that he comes across and eventually people, learning how everything fits into the food chain. And you really do focus on how the Predator learns the environment that he's in, what's going on around him, and how this lead character can fight against it. Now, the lead character is Naru, played by Amber Midthunder, and she does a really good job in the role. This character is basically trying to prove herself as a hunter to her brother and her family after her father has passed. If that sounds very familiar to something you've seen before, I'll go into that later. But she commits to the role, she does a really good job, and it doesn't insult the audience's intelligence as far as like this random woman who's not even fully grown knowing how to like take down a giant alien monster that Arnold Schwarzenegger struggled with. There's actually an element of this movie that is intelligent in a way that it says, this girl has like nothing on the Predator. She cannot fight him physically, so something has to go another way for her to even take it on. She makes a lot of mistakes. She tries to berate her brother and other characters in the movie that think that she can't do anything, and she's like, oh, well, you do this, this, and this, and that's why you're a poor hunter. And then she becomes a poor hunter herself. And I did like the fact that the writers actually threw her criticisms of her male tribesmates back in her face, like, look, lady, this ain't as easy as you think it is, and just in case you didn't figure it out, you weren't the one carrying home the mountain lion to the family, so yeah, sit back down. Now, when it comes to how the plot unfolds, I actually really enjoyed a lot of the action. I enjoyed a lot of the special effects, although some of it was a little lower budget than I think I would have preferred. And I think it's a decent movie. I really do think that Prey opens the door to a lot of fun ideas by simply simplifying the Predator story and going for something very basic and fun. Now, if all of that sounded fun and cool, that's like the end of my non-spoiler section. So now I'm going to actually talk about the movie itself. Now, again, I think it was a good idea to have the lead character get her ass handed to her by both men and the Predator up until the end of the movie. I didn't really like some of the more Marvel-esque filmmaking where she's like trying to kill a deer by sliding and bouncing off of trees and stuff with her tomahawk. That was a little much for me. And also the idea of her dog getting its tail stuck in a bear trap was a bit silly. Like, you really got to be wagging your tail at a very specific angle to like set that trap off, but whatever. It's a movie, man. And I've just kind of come to realize that sometimes modern films are never going to be what I wish they would be compared to what I grew up with. That doesn't make this a bad movie. It's just, it's got some of those tropey things in it that I didn't really want there to be. But again, I did like the fact that this character is not written as this just this perfect creation who goes against no adversity and who has no challenges in her life. There's a great moment where they're actually trying to take down a mountain lion, and they're talking to her like, girl, you can't take this mountain lion down. This is a freaking mountain lion. And then the guy gets yanked out of the tree by the mountain lion. We're right in there in the middle of action, and the girl has to like stand up for herself, become the hunter she wants to be, and she's not very successful. She falls out of the tree, knocks herself out, and she would have died had it not been for her brother. You know, she didn't really bring home the bacon, so to speak. And I do like the fact that at multiple points in this movie, they point out to like, this chick has aspirations of being a great hunter, but that doesn't mean that she is automatically a great hunter. They put her through test. There's a great scene that reminded me of the Never-Ending Story where she's in the Swamp of Sadness bog, and she's got to innovate and figure out how she's going to get out. The big heart of the movie and the actual message is about being intelligent. And they talk about this all the time with different animals and also with different people in the tribe. This girl cannot rely on pure physical strength. There's another part where she gets, into some sort of scuffle with some guys, and it's not like she can't hold her own at all, but there is a reality to the fact that not every fight is going to be won by just your fist. You have to think your way out of it. And I like the fact that this movie didn't insult my intelligence and actually said, yeah, this girl's got to think of other ways to win these battles. Now, like I said earlier, if the whole idea of following in her father's footsteps or whatever and becoming a hunter and proving herself sound familiar, one of the bigger issues with the movie is something similar that I had with Avatar. I've seen this type of story before. This is the Mulan archetype. Just like Avatar was Dances with Wolves in Space or Fern Gully or whatever you want to call it, Prey, it's Mulan. Now, is it good? Yeah, it works off pretty well, and it's got a lot of original ideas that I think really go a long way. It's not throwing some message deep into your face. She actually does have to prove herself, which I like. It's not a Rey Skywalker thing where she's just automatically perfect, in every single way. I also really like the fact that this is good development on behalf of both the message that the movie is setting up as far as brains versus brawn go, and how the character prevails. She literally cannot win physically, so she has to outsmart everything around her. Like I said, that does leave this being a bit tropey, but I still think that the decision to make the protagonist a female is a little redundant and kind of been there and done that. I don't know if the decision to make the lead character female was representative of actual history for the Comanche tribe, but whatever the reason may be, I am saying that this is a bit of an antidote to like a Captain Marvel sort of situation. It's just a little weird that it's, tropey in that regard. It's, if anything, it felt more G.I. Jane 90s to me than modern Hollywood. Now, the biggest issues I had with this movie, guys, seriously, the writing, and I shouldn't say writing, I haven't seen the script, but dude, the way they use this dog in this movie is so silly, and it is so forced that I every time that dog runs away and shows back up and runs away and shows back up again, I was like, they didn't know how to get rid of the dog, did they? There's a part where you've seen it in the trailer, Naru takes on a bear and the dog just runs away. And then the dog comes back. And then the dog runs away again. It seems like anytime they don't want to kill the dog, because I guess they think it would be tropey if the dog gets killed. The dog got killed in Road Warrior and Mad Max. The dog got killed in Komodo. If you guys know, I've talked about that movie on this channel before in the past. Pretty much any movie, The Lost World, Jurassic Park. Dogs get killed in movies. John Wick, you know the whole story. So they're trying not to follow in that trope, but in a similar way to the movie Crawl, that alligator film that came out in 2019, I felt like, dude, there's no way this dog is getting away this easy. There's a part where the predator has a clear lock on the dog, and then it gets away again and just like leaves. I'm like, dude, this is the luckiest dog I've ever seen in my entire life. And I could just picture the script being like, dog runs away, dog comes back, and the dog actually saves people at some parts in the movie, which I will say, if you actually compare the ending to this film and how they use the dog versus how they use the predator dog in The Predator, this film is leaps and bounds better. And it really goes to show that even though I do criticize some of the writing around that stuff, it's a superior sequel comparatively to some of the others in this franchise. I will also say that the line, "If it bleeds, we can kill it," dude, that was... I don't like the fact that they put that in the movie, because that was very cringy, and I love that line. Every time I hear "if it bleeds, we can kill it," I think of the Austrian Death Machine song, and I get really into that first Predator movie. And I don't know why movies have the tendency to bring up other quotes from other films, like, oh, remember when someone said that? The first time it was ever done was probably Terminator 2 Judgment Day, when Arnold's like, "come with me if you want to live," which is obviously like a play on Michael Bihn's saying of it in the first film. And he also says, "I'll be back," and stuff like that. But like, I don't know, man, like, you gotta pull it back a bit. You can't, I just don't think that should have been in the movie. And I definitely don't think it wasn't a good idea to have Naru going, "come on, do it, come on, kill me." Adrian Brody did that in Predators. Like, guys, let's stop reusing that. Now, speaking of the end of the movie, I really liked the idea that they set up the bog to trap the predator. I don't like the idea that it was the predator's own weaponry that killed itself. And I understand that she had to outsmart it. I really like the part where she had to get under some rocks and the shield came down and like stopped her from being decapitated. But come on, man, like, the predator's that dumb that he just lets that thing shoot himself in the head. Like, it reminded me of AVPR, where like those predators shot a hole in their own spaceship and crashed on Earth. Like, these guys aren't as smart as we think they are they? But other than that, great scene where the predator fights a wolf. Really great scene where the predator fights a bear. That was incredible. I really do like a lot of the aspects that they introduced into the movie. Dakota Beavers did a really good job. He's out there looking like Joshua Fireseed from Turok, and he has a great death scene. I don't know if they're trying to tie Naru as like the great-great-great-grandmother of Billy from Predator, but it's an interesting idea. I will say, Raphael Adolini, personally, I like that they tied it in with Predator 2. However, I prefer the idea of the Predator taking that pistol in combat from a man. And I think that if they do a sequel, I hope it is set in a different time period, like with, I don't know, like Pirates or something, because it's cool that they have the pistol from Predator 2. I do like that. It's fun, but personally, I just prefer it to having been won in combat. There's something about the way Grayback throws it to Danny Glover in Predator 2 and going, take it. That's just, I need to do a video on like why Predator is cool and why the Predator sequels have been cool, but not as cool as Predator 1 and Predator 2. That was like one element that I thought it really nailed from the first movie. But anyways, critics are saying Prey is one of the greatest Predator movies ever made. They think it's better than the first movie. Incorrect. I disagree. I personally don't feel that way. It's better than Predator 4, better than the AVP movies. I don't know, man. It's funny. When I saw Predators in 2010, I was disappointed. And I personally see that movie as being modern, which I can't say. That's incorrect as well, because that movie came out 12 years ago, but I was a teenager, so like, I don't know, man. It's funny how these things work. For me to say Predators from 2010 is indicative of modern filmmaking is just as dumb as saying Jurassic Park 3 is indicative of modern filmmaking in the year 2015 when Jurassic World was coming out. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, dude, a decade and more has passed. You gotta move on. And like, I like Predator 3. I like Predator 5 or Prey or whatever you want to call this one. I currently think Predator 2 is the one I want to watch more than any of the other ones. Predators is the most underrated Predator sequel. And Prey is the most basic, non-complex, but still really cool sequel that I'm glad exists. I don't think it's as good as people have been saying it is. I think the critics are kind of crazy for saying that. And I think I err more on like the audience's perspective, although I don't think the movie is woke or overly woke. Now, if behind the scenes they said that that was the intention, well, I'm sorry, then at least it didn't translate completely in the final product, in my opinion. I will watch this movie again. I don't think it's as rewatchable as some of the other ones, but yeah, like, I think Prey's a good movie. It's just not as good as people are saying it is. Last little thing I'll throw out there. I wonder if this Predator is from the same tribe from Predator 3, because it uses skull ornamentation on its mask, and when it was unmasked, it looked similar to the way those Bad Bloods or whatever they were from the third film looked. I don't know how they're going to follow this up. I really liked Amber Midthunder, Dakota Beavers. Everyone in the film did an incredible job. Dan Trachtenberg did great. It's a fun film. It's just not the greatest thing ever made. I appreciate that it didn't shove any political message in my face, and I really like the fact that it was just, you gotta outsmart the Predator when you're not strong enough. Now, with that being said, I would love to hear what everyone else thinks about this film. What are your thoughts on Prey, the 2022 sequel that critics are saying is the greatest film since the first movie with Arnold, and maybe even better? Personally, I think that's a load of BS, and I just think it's a solid sequel. But hey, whatever your own thoughts and opinions happen to be, I'd love to hear them in the comments down below.